Do you know anyone who wants a daughter? The maid's toddler asked. The most feared billionaire Marcus Whitmore stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse office, surveying Manhattan like a king overlooking his kingdom. At 33, he'd built an empire that made grown men tremble. Tech mogul, venture capitalist, the man who could bankrupt companies with a single phone call. His reputation preceded him like a storm cloud, cold, calculating, and utterly unforgiving. He was in the middle of reviewing quarterly reports when he heard it. A small voice, barely above a whisper, yet somehow cutting through the silence of his home office like a bell. "Excuse me, mister?" Marcus turned sharply, his jaw tightening. He'd given strict instructions. No interruptions. Ever. Especially not on Sundays when he worked from home. But there, in his doorway, stood a little girl. She couldn't have been more than 3 years old, with wild dark curls escaping from 2 lopsided pigtails and enormous brown eyes that seemed to take up half her face. She wore a pink dress with a juice stain on the front and clutched a threadbare stuffed rabbit to her chest. "Who are you?" Marcus demanded, his voice harder than he intended. "Where's Elena?" The child didn't flinch at his tone. Instead, she took a tentative step forward, her small bare feet padding across his imported Italian marble floor. "I'm Lily," she announced with the simple confidence of someone who'd never learned to fear powerful men. "Mommy is cleaning your big bathroom. The one with all the white." Elena Rodriguez. His maid. He'd hired her 3 months ago through an agency, and she'd been invisible. Exactly how he liked his staff. He hadn't even known she had a daughter. "Your mother shouldn't have brought you here," Marcus said curtly, turning back to his computer. "This is a workplace." But Lily didn't leave. He could feel her presence, small and persistent, like a pebble in his shoe. "Mister?" she asked again, and something in her voice made him pause. There was a weight to it, a sadness that seemed impossible for someone so young. Against his better judgment, Marcus turned around. "What?" Lily hugged her rabbit tighter. Her bottom lip trembled slightly, but she lifted her chin with a bravery that caught him off guard. "Do you know anyone who wants a daughter?" The question hung in the air between them, absurd and heartbreaking in equal measure. Marcus felt something crack in the carefully constructed walls around his heart, just a hairline fracture, but enough to let something uncomfortable seep through. "What kind of question is that?" he asked, his voice losing some of its edge. "Mommy cries at night," Lily explained matter-of-factly, as if discussing the weather. "She thinks I'm sleeping, but I hear her. She says she can't do this alone anymore. That maybe I'd be better with a real family. Someone who could give me things." She looked down at her rabbit. "Mr. Hoppy says that means she wants to give me away." Before Marcus could respond, before he could even process what he'd just heard, Elena appeared in the doorway, her face pale with horror. "Lily." She rushed forward, grabbing her daughter's hand. "I am so sorry, Mr. Whitmore." She was supposed to stay in the kitchen with her coloring books. Her voice broke. "Please, I'll take her home right now. I'll finish cleaning tomorrow. Please don't fire me." Marcus looked at Elena, really looked at her, for the first time since he'd hired her. She was 28. He remembered from her application, though the exhaustion etched into her features made her seem older. Her hands, he noticed, were red and raw from cleaning solutions. Her uniform hung loose on her thin frame. "How long have you been working double shifts?" he heard himself ask. Elena froze, confusion flickering across her face. I don't understand. You're scheduled for 20 hours a week here. But you look like you haven't slept in days. Where else are you working?" She swallowed hard. "Mr. Chen's restaurant. Late shift, 5 nights a week. And I clean offices downtown on Tuesday and Thursday mornings. But it doesn't interfere with my work here, I promise. I'm always on time, and You're working 3 jobs," Marcus interrupted, something uncomfortably close to anger rising in his chest. though he wasn't sure if he was angry at her or at a system that required a woman to work herself to death just to survive. "It's just until I can save enough," Elena said quickly, clutching Lily closer. "Childcare is expensive, and my apartment, it's not much, but it's safe, and Lily needs—" She stopped herself, seeming to realize she was oversharing. "I'm sorry. This isn't your concern." But as Marcus looked at the little girl with the sad eyes and the impossible question, and her mother who was quite literally working herself to death to provide for her, he realized something unsettling. Maybe it was his concern. Maybe it should be someone's concern. "The bathroom can wait," he said abruptly. "Lily, do you like hot chocolate?" Both Elena and Lily stared at him as if he'd started speaking ancient Greek. Yes." Lily ventured cautiously. "Good. I have some in the kitchen. The fancy kind with tiny marshmallows." He had no idea why he had this, probably left over from some corporate gift basket his assistant had stocked his pantry with months ago. "Your mother and I need to talk." "Mr. Whitmore, really? That's not necessary," Elena began. "Ms. Rodriguez." Marcus fixed her with the same look he gave CEOs before buying their companies. "When was the last time you ate a real meal?" She opened her mouth, then closed it. Her silence was answer enough. "That's what I thought."
"Kitchen. Now."
"Both of you." As he led them down the hallway, Marcus tried to understand what he was doing. He didn't do charity. He didn't get involved in his employees' personal lives. He certainly didn't invite them to have hot chocolate in his kitchen like they were old friends. But that question echoed in his mind, spoken in a child's voice that should never have had to ask it. "Do you know anyone who wants a daughter?" And suddenly, inexplicably, Marcus Whitmore, the man who never wanted anything to do with families or feelings or the messy complications of caring about other people, found himself thinking, "Maybe I do. Maybe I do." The kitchen of Marcus Whitmore's penthouse was bigger than the entire apartment Elena shared with Lily. All gleaming marble countertops, state-of-the-art appliances that looked like they'd never been used, and a window overlooking Central Park that probably cost more than Elena would make in 5 years. Lily sat at the kitchen island, swinging her legs that didn't quite reach the footrest, her eyes wide as she watched Marcus fumble with the expensive espresso machine that apparently also made hot chocolate. Elena stood awkwardly to the side, torn between helping him and maintaining the professional distance that had kept her employed for 3 months. "You have to press the button twice," Lily offered helpfully as Marcus scowled at the machine. "That's what the nice lady at the cafe does when Mommy gets me hot chocolate on my birthday." "Once a year," Elena interjected quickly, as if she needed to justify this small extravagance. "And only because Mrs. Chen gives me a discount." Marcus glanced at her, something unreadable flickering across his face, before turning back to the machine. "Well, today isn't anyone's birthday, but I think we can make an exception." The machine finally cooperated, producing 3 cups of hot chocolate that smelled like heaven. Marcus added a generous handful of marshmallows to Lily's cup and set it in front of her with an awkwardness that suggested he'd never served anyone anything in his life. "It's hot," he warned unnecessarily. "Blow on it first." Lily nodded solemnly and demonstrated her blowing technique, sending marshmallows bobbing across the surface of her drink. A small smile tugged at the corner of her mouth, the first genuine expression of happiness Elena had seen on her daughter's face in weeks. Elena's chest tightened. When had that happened? When had her bright, bubbly little girl become so subdued? She knew when. It was when they'd had to leave their last apartment because the landlord sold the building. When they'd moved into the new place in a worse neighborhood because it was all she could afford. When Lily had asked why she couldn't go to the preschool anymore with the playground and the painting easels, and Elena had had to explain that Mommy needed to work more hours, so Lily would have to stay with Mrs. Park next door, who was kind but elderly and mostly let Lily watch television all day. "So," Marcus said, pulling up a bar stool across from them and cradling his own cup. The gesture looked foreign on him, too domestic for a man who wore a $1,000 watch even on Sundays. How did you end up cleaning houses, Ms. Rodriguez? Elena stiffened. It's honest work. I didn't say it wasn't. His tone was neutral, but there was something in his eyes. Curiosity, maybe, or the kind of sharp intelligence that had built his empire. But you have a degree in education. It was on your application. She was surprised he remembered. Surprised he'd even read her application beyond confirming she had references and wasn't an axe murderer. The degree doesn't matter much without certification, Elena said carefully. And I couldn't afford to finish the student teaching requirements. Not after. She stopped, glancing at Lily, who was focused on fishing marshmallows out of her cup with a spoon. After? Marcus prompted. Elena took a breath. She didn't talk about this. Not with employers, not with casual acquaintances, barely even with herself in the quiet hours of the night when the fear got too loud to ignore. But there was something about the way he was looking at her, not with pity, not with judgment, but with a straightforward expectation that she would tell him the truth, that made the words spill out. After Lily's father left, she said quietly, I was 6 months pregnant. We were both in college. He was getting his MBA, I was finishing my teaching degree. We had plans. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. So many plans. And then I told him about the baby, and suddenly all those plans disappeared. He transferred to a school across the country. Sent me a check for $5,000 and a letter from his lawyer saying he was waiving all parental rights and wanted nothing to do with us. She wrapped her hands around her hot chocolate cup, seeking its warmth. $5,000. That's what our daughter was worth to him. It lasted about 3 months after she was born, between hospital bills and trying to keep my apartment while I couldn't work. I had to drop out. Had to find whatever jobs I could do around her schedule. And here we are. Here we are, Marcus repeated softly. He looked at Lily, who had chocolate on her upper lip and was humming a tuneless song to Mr. Hoppy. And the comment about wanting to give her away? Elena's eyes filled with tears. I would never. I love her more than anything in this world. She's the only good thing I've ever. Her voice broke. But sometimes I lie awake at night and wonder if she wouldn't be better off with a family who could give her everything she deserves. Dance classes and good schools, and a bedroom that doesn't have mold in the corner that I can't afford to fix. A mother who doesn't come home too exhausted to read her bedtime stories. I hate myself for even thinking it, but I do. I think it all the time. You said that out loud, Lily said matter-of-factly, looking up from her hot chocolate. Last Tuesday. You were on the phone with Grandma, and you said maybe Grandma was right, that I deserved better than what you could give me. Elena's face went white. Lily, baby, I didn't mean... It's okay, Mommy. Lily's voice was so small, so accepting of what she clearly believed was inevitable. I know you're tired. I try to be good. I'm sorry I'm expensive. The words hit Elena like a physical blow. She reached for her daughter, pulling her into her arms, but Lily remained stiff, as if she'd already started the process of detaching, of protecting herself from the abandonment she believed was coming. Marcus stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. He walked to the window, his back to them, his shoulders tight with tension. I grew up in foster care, he said suddenly, his voice flat. 6 different homes between ages 8 and 18. Want to know what they all had in common? They all said they wanted me at first. Said they'd give me a good home. But the novelty wore off fast. I was too angry, too difficult, too broken. By the time I aged out of the system, I'd learned that wanting someone and actually staying when things get hard are 2 very different things. He turned back to face them, and Elena was shocked to see raw emotion on his face, pain that looked like it had been buried for decades. Up, confused. What? I have a proposition for you. A business arrangement. His tone was brusque now, back to the billionaire negotiating a deal. But underneath it, Elena could hear something else. Something almost vulnerable. Move in here. You and Lily. The penthouse has 4 guest bedrooms sitting empty. You have your own space. In exchange, you manage the household full-time. Cooking, cleaning, whatever needs doing. Salary of $80,000 a year plus health insurance, and a housing stipend for when you eventually move out. Elena's mouth fell open. That's insane. That's 3 times what housekeepers make. And you're doing the work of 3 people right now for a fraction of that, Marcus interrupted. This way, you work 1 job. Lily has a safe home, her own room. You have time to sleep, to take care of yourself. Maybe even finish your degree online if you want. Why would you do this? Elena asked, suspicion and hope warring in her voice. Marcus looked at Lily, who was watching him with those enormous eyes. Because a little girl asked me if I knew anyone who wanted a daughter, he said quietly. And I realized the answer was yes. Her mother wants her. Desperately. She just needs help giving her the life she deserves. So let me help. Think of it as an investment. I invest in potential. And I see a lot of potential in both of you. Elena opened her mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. Is that a yes? Marcus asked, the hint of a smile playing at his lips. Lily tugged on Elena's sleeve. Mommy, can Mr. Hoppy have his own bed in my new room? And despite everything, the impossibility, the absurdity, the fear, Elena found herself laughing through her tears. Yes, she whispered. Yes, baby. Mr. Hoppy can have his own bed. The first week in the penthouse was surreal. Elena kept expecting to wake up and find herself back in her cramped apartment, this impossible turn of fortune revealed as nothing more than an exhausted dream. But every morning, she woke up in a bedroom larger than her entire previous living space, with actual thread count in the sheets and windows that looked out over the park. And every morning, she'd hear Lily's footsteps padding down the hallway, followed by the little girl's delighted squeal as she discovered some new wonder in their temporary home. Mommy, the toilet has buttons. Like, lots of buttons. Mommy, there's a room just for washing clothes, and it smells like flowers. Mommy, Mr. Marcus has a refrigerator just for water. Mr. Marcus. Lily had bestowed the title on their host within the first 24 hours, and Marcus, despite his initial stiffness, hadn't corrected her. Elena had expected him to maintain his distance, to treat this arrangement as the business transaction he'd claimed it was. But Marcus Whitmore, she was learning, was full of surprises. On their 3rd morning, Elena came down to find Marcus at the kitchen counter with Lily, both of them staring intently at his laptop. And this, Marcus was explaining with unexpected patience, is what we call a spreadsheet. See how each number goes in its own box. Why? Lily asked, leaning forward, so far she nearly toppled off her chair. Marcus's hand shot out automatically, steadying her without breaking his explanation. Because sometimes you have lots of information and you need to organize it. Like if you wanted to keep track of all your stuffed animals and what colors they are. Lily gasped as if he'd revealed the secrets of the universe. Mr. Hoppy could have his own box. Exactly. Marcus pulled up a new spreadsheet and typed Mr. Hoppy in the first cell. What color is he?
Gray.
But also brown. But mostly gray. Gray-brown it is. Marcus added it to the next cell, and Lily clapped her hands with delight. Elena stood in the doorway, unnoticed, watching this impossible scene. Marcus Whitmore, the billionaire who reportedly made his assistants sign NDAs and fired people for being 30 seconds late to meetings, was teaching her 3-year-old daughter how to use Excel at 7 in the morning. You're up early, Marcus said without looking up, somehow sensing her presence. There's coffee in the pot. Fair warning, it's the strong stuff. I don't believe in anything that tastes like candy. Elena poured herself a cup, savoring the rich, dark brew. Real coffee. Not the instant crystals she'd been making do with for months. I didn't mean to interrupt your lesson, she said, moving into the kitchen. No interruption. We're working on data organization. Critical life skill. He said this with complete seriousness, as if teaching a toddler spreadsheet skills was perfectly normal. Lily, show your mom what else we learned. Lily swiveled the laptop toward Elena, revealing a colorful chart. It's a graph. It shows how many books I read this week. 3 books. So I get 3 tall sticks. Graph, Marcus corrected gently. And very good. Tomorrow we'll make one showing how many vegetables you eat at dinner. Lily's face fell. But I don't like vegetables. More reason to track them. Data doesn't lie, Lily. If the graph shows 0 vegetables, we'll know you need to work on that. You're using graphs to make my daughter eat broccoli, Elena said, fighting back a smile. Marcus shrugged, but she caught the hint of amusement in his eyes. I use whatever tools are effective. Besides, she asked me what I do for work. Had to start somewhere. Over the following days, a strange routine developed. Marcus worked from home more often than Elena suspected he normally did, though he claimed it was just because he was between major deals. He'd emerge from his office at odd hours, always seeming to find them when something needed doing that was just beyond Elena's reach or expertise. When the television in the living room proved too complicated for Elena to operate, Marcus spent an hour teaching both her and Lily how to use the smart home system, though Elena suspected it would have taken him 5 minutes to just program it himself. When Lily mentioned she missed painting, Marcus had art supplies delivered the next day, but not cheap children's stuff. Professional-grade watercolors, thick paper that didn't buckle, brushes in every size. He set up an easel in the corner of the living room without asking permission. She needs creative outlets, he said gruffly when Elena tried to protest the expense. It's good for cognitive development. Since when do you know about cognitive development? I read. He handed Lily a paint palette like he was presenting a business proposal. Besides, she has opinions about color theory. We had a very serious discussion about why the sky isn't always blue. The discussion about the sky, Elena learned from Lily later, had happened when Marcus found her crying because she'd painted a sunset and worried she'd done it wrong because she'd used pink and orange instead of blue. Mr. Marcus says the best art breaks the rules, Lily reported solemnly. He says that's called innovation. But it wasn't just Lily that Marcus quietly looked after. Elena discovered this when she went to pay her phone bill online and found it had been paid already. When she confronted Marcus, he'd barely looked up from his tablet. It's part of the household expenses. You can't manage things efficiently with an unreliable phone. My phone was fine. Your phone was a 6-year-old model that dropped calls and had a cracked screen. Now it's upgraded. It's more efficient this way. When she opened her mouth to argue, he fixed her with a look that she'd come to recognize, the one that said the discussion was over, but underneath it was a stubbornness born not of arrogance, but of caring that he didn't quite know how to express. The breakthrough came on Friday evening. Elena was preparing dinner, pasta with marinara sauce, simple but homemade, when she heard shouting from Marcus's office. His voice, usually so controlled, was raised in anger. I don't care if the Seoul office thinks the timeline is aggressive. We set expectations for a reason, and if they can't... He stopped abruptly as Lily appeared in his doorway. Mr. Hoppy clutched to her chest. Elena rushed over, wiping her hands on her apron. Lily, honey, Mr. Marcus is working. You're yelling, Lily said, her voice small. Are you mad at us? Do we have to leave? The color drained from Marcus's face.
What? No.
Lily, I'm not. He ran a hand through his hair, an uncharacteristic gesture of frustration. I'm on a work call. I'm angry at people who aren't doing their jobs, not at you. But you're yelling like the man who yelled at Mommy at our old building, Lily said, tears welling in her eyes. He yelled, and then we had to go. Elena felt her heart break. She'd thought Lily had been too young to fully understand their eviction, but clearly, she'd retained more than Elena realized. Marcus carefully set down his phone. I need to call you back, he said into it, then ended the call without waiting for a response. He came around his desk and crouched down to Lily's level. Awkwardly, like someone unaccustomed to addressing small children, but with genuine intent. Lily, listen to me. This is your home now. Yours and your mom's. When I get angry at work, it has nothing to do with you. And I would never make you leave because I'm having a bad day. That's not how this works. That's not how family works. But we're not your family, Lily said, confused. We're just staying here. Marcus was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was softer than Elena had ever heard it. Maybe we're becoming family. The choosing kind. Is that okay? Lily considered this with the seriousness of a 3-year-old contemplating the universe. Does the choosing kind stay together? Even when things are hard. Especially when things are hard. That's the whole point. Okay. Lily stepped forward and, without warning, hugged him. Marcus froze, his arms suspended in midair, looking at Elena with something close to panic. She nodded encouragingly and slowly, carefully, he lowered his arms around the small girl. Dinner's in 10 minutes, Lily announced, pulling back. Mommy made pasta. There's enough for you too. Because we're the choosing family now. She skipped away, crisis averted in the way only children could manage. Marcus stood slowly, and Elena saw him discreetly wipe at his eyes. Thank you, she said softly. For what? For being patient with her. For understanding that she's carrying more than a 3-year-old should have to carry. Marcus looked at her, and in that moment, she saw past the billionaire armor to the foster kid underneath. The one who understood exactly what it felt like to never be quite sure if you were staying or going. We're all carrying more than we should, he said quietly. Maybe that's why we work. We understand each other's weight. That night, for the first time since moving in, Elena didn't lie awake wondering when this would all fall apart. Instead, she fell asleep thinking about choosing families and how sometimes the most unexpected people became home. It was a Tuesday afternoon when Marcus's carefully constructed world began to crumble, or rather, when he realized it had already been crumbling for a while, and he'd been too focused on maintaining control to notice. He was in his study, reviewing contracts for a potential merger, when his phone buzzed with an email from his assistant. The subject line made his stomach tighten, regarding your unusual living arrangements. The email contained a link to a gossip blog. Marcus didn't read gossip blogs. He paid people to keep him out of gossip blogs. But he clicked anyway, and there it was, a grainy photograph of him in Central Park with Lily on his shoulders, her hands covering his eyes while she giggled. Elena walked beside them, smiling in a way that made her look years younger. The headline screamed, Ice King melts? Marcus Whitmore spotted with mystery woman and child, secret family, or something more. Marcus felt his jaw clench. The article was full of speculation. Was this a girlfriend? A secret child? A scandal waiting to break? It referenced his reputation, his reclusive lifestyle, and made breathless guesses about this sudden humanization of the notoriously private billionaire. Mr. Whitmore? Elena's voice came from the doorway. She held a laundry basket, but her face told him she already knew. Your assistant called. She said there are photographers outside the building. Marcus swore under his breath. How many? 5 that I could see from the window. One tried to get the doorman to let him up. He stood abruptly, his mind already racing through solutions. Legal action. Cease and desist letters. Buying the publication and burying the story. But even as he thought it, he knew none of those would work. The photo was out there. The speculation had started. And in his world, perception was reality. I'll handle this, he said, pulling up his contacts. I'll have my security team. Marcus. Elena's use of his first name stopped him. She'd been calling him that for the past 2 weeks, and he never corrected her, though he couldn't say exactly when Mr. Whitmore had become Marcus. What if we don't handle it? What if we just let it be what it is? And what is it? He asked sharply. Because right now the internet thinks I'm either hiding a secret family or conducting some kind of inappropriate relationship with my employee. both of which are untrue and could damage. He stopped, seeing her flinch. I didn't mean. No, you're right. Elena set down the laundry basket with carefully controlled movements. This was always going to be complicated. I knew that. People don't understand arrangements like this because they don't make sense to them. A billionaire and his housekeeper and her daughter, playing house in a penthouse. It's a tabloid story waiting to happen. That's not what I meant. Isn't it? She met his eyes, and he saw something that looked like disappointment. You said this was a business arrangement, and maybe that's all it should stay. Maybe we should clarify boundaries. Before Marcus could respond, Lily burst into the room, her face tear-stained and blotchy. She was clutching her tablet, the one Marcus had given her for educational games, like it had betrayed her. Lily, what's wrong? Elena immediately dropped to her knees, pulling her daughter close. The kids, Lily sobbed. The kids from my old preschool. Mrs. Park showed me how to video call them, and they were asking about where I live now, and I told them about the big apartment and Mr. Marcus, and they said I was lying. They said I'm making up stories because I want to be special. They said poor people don't get to live in penthouses. Oh, baby. Elena held her tighter. Am I lying, Mommy? Are we just pretending? Lily looked up with those enormous eyes. Are we going to have to leave and go back to being poor? The word hung in the air like a condemnation. Marcus felt something crack in his chest. You're not lying, he said, coming around his desk. He crouched down beside them, ignoring the protest from his knees that weren't accustomed to this position. And you're not pretending. This is real. But they said. I don't care what they said. Those kids are wrong. And anyone who makes you feel bad for accepting help isn't your friend. He looked at Elena, then back at Lily. Sometimes good things happen. Sometimes people who need each other find each other. That's not pretending. That's just lucky. But what if the luck runs out? Lily asked with the wisdom of someone who'd already learned that good things could disappear. Marcus had no answer to that. Because wasn't that his fear too? That this temporary peace, this unexpected family, was just another thing that would eventually fall apart? The moment was interrupted by his phone ringing. His mother's number. Marcus's stomach dropped. He hadn't spoken to Patricia Whitmore in 6 months. Their last conversation had ended with her telling him he was emotionally stunted and him telling her she was toxically manipulative. Neither of them had been wrong. He let it ring through to voicemail. Then immediately it rang again. You should answer it, Elena said quietly, reading something in his face. We'll give you privacy. She started to usher Lily out, but Marcus found himself saying, Stay. Please. He wasn't sure why. Maybe because he was tired of handling everything alone. Maybe because after weeks of watching Elena navigate single motherhood with a strength that humbled him, he wanted someone in his corner when he faced his own complicated family. He answered on speaker. Mother. Marcus. Patricia Whitmore's voice was crisp, cultured, and absolutely glacial. I just received a very interesting phone call from Jennifer Hastings. Her husband sits on the board of your company. She wanted to know if you were planning to announce a secret family at the next shareholders meeting. There's no secret family. No? Then explain the photographs. Explain why my son, who has avoided any hint of attachment since he aged out of foster care, is suddenly playing father to some woman's child. Elena's face went pale. Marcus felt rage boil up in his chest. Her name is Lily. The woman's name is Elena. And I'm not playing anything. Oh, Marcus. His mother's sigh was theatrical, perfected over years of passive aggression. What are you doing? Is this some kind of midlife crisis? Guilt over your privileged life? You can't save every struggling single mother in Manhattan. You certainly can't save yourself by trying. I'm not trying to save anyone, Marcus said through clenched teeth. I'm helping people who needed help. There's a difference. Is there? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're creating a lovely little fantasy family to fill the hole where your actual childhood should have been. But Marcus, sweetheart, you can't buy away your trauma. You can't pay someone to love you. And when this all falls apart, and it will fall apart, you're going to be right back where you started. Alone. Except this time, you'll have broken a little girl's heart too. The line went dead. Marcus stood frozen, the phone still in his hand, his mother's words echoing in the silence. Is that true? Lily asked in a small voice. Are you going to break my heart? Marcus looked at this child who had somehow become essential to his daily life, who had taught him the difference between loneliness and solitude, who had asked him, with devastating innocence, if he knew anyone who wanted a daughter. And he realized, with a clarity that was almost painful, that he was in love with them. Both of them. He'd fallen in love with Elena's fierce determination and Lily's wild joy, and the way they'd turned his sterile penthouse into something that felt dangerously close to home. He was in love with them, and his mother was right. It terrified him. I don't want to break anyone's heart, he said finally. But I don't know how to do this. How to be what you need. I don't know how to be a family. Elena looked at him for a long moment. Then she stood, picked up Lily, and turned to leave. Elena. I think, she said softly, not looking back, we all need some space to think about what we really want here, before someone gets hurt worse than they already are. And as she walked out, taking Lily and all the light with them, Marcus realized he'd just made the same mistake he always made. He'd let fear win. 3 days. That's how long it took for Marcus's perfectly ordered life to become unbearable. Elena maintained the professional distance he assumed she thought he wanted. She cooked breakfast while he was in the shower, left dinner in the fridge with reheating instructions, and cleaned when he was locked in his office. They moved through the penthouse like ghosts, occupying the same space, but never the same moments. Lily stopped coming to his office to show him her paintings. Stopped asking him to explain what he was working on. Stopped calling him Mr. Marcus because she'd stopped talking to him at all. Marcus told himself this was for the best. This was what he knew: solitude, work, the clean simplicity of transactions that didn't require emotional vulnerability. He threw himself into the soul merger with an intensity that made his assistant start taking anxiety medication. But at night, the penthouse felt cavernous. He'd lie awake in his room, hearing the sounds of Elena reading to Lily, their voices muffled through walls. Sometimes he'd catch fragments of the stories, tales of brave princesses and magical kingdoms and families that always stayed together. On the 4th morning, Marcus came down to find Elena's resignation letter on the kitchen counter. His hands shook as he read it. Professional. Courteous. Thanking him for his generosity. Stating that she'd secured a position managing a small apartment building in Queens that came with a free unit. She would vacate by the end of the week.
No.
The word came out before he could stop it. Elena turned from where she was packing Lily's breakfast, her face carefully neutral. I'm sorry? No, Marcus repeated, his voice stronger now. You don't get to just leave. With respect, Mr. Whitmore, I think I do. This was always temporary. Stop calling me that. Stop acting like we're strangers. Stop. He ran his hands through his hair, a gesture he'd picked up from watching her do it when she was stressed. Stop running away. I'm not running. I'm establishing boundaries. Like you clearly wanted after that phone call with your mother. I never said. You didn't have to. Elena's professional mask cracked, revealing the hurt underneath. Your mother said you couldn't buy love. And she was right. We're not a transaction, Marcus. We're people. Lily is a child who's getting attached to you, who thinks you're becoming her family, and I can't. I won't let her heart get broken when you decide this experiment is over. It's not an experiment. Then what is it? Elena's voice rose. Because I'm confused, Marcus. 1 minute you're teaching my daughter about spreadsheets and carrying her on your shoulders in the park. The next, you're treating us like employees who overstepped. I can't do this emotional whiplash. And I definitely can't let Lily do it. Where is she? Marcus looked around, suddenly needing to see the little girl with the impossible questions. Mrs. Parks. I didn't want her to hear us fighting. Elena crossed her arms. She's already upset enough. She asked me last night if we had to leave because she didn't eat enough vegetables. Because apparently, you told her that families negotiate and compromise, and she thinks she didn't negotiate well enough. Marcus felt like he'd been punched. That's not. I would never. I know. But that's how 3-year-olds think when their world keeps changing. She's trying to figure out the rules, Marcus. Trying to understand what she has to do to make you keep loving her. And that breaks my heart because no child should have to earn love. I do love her. The words escaped before Marcus could call them back. I love both of you. And that terrifies me because everyone I've ever loved has left. Everyone I've ever counted on has proven that counting on people is a mistake. Elena's eyes widened. Marcus. My mother, the woman who called with her poison? She and my father adopted me when I was 8. Said they wanted to give me a better life. Sent me to the best schools. Gave me every advantage. But they never loved me. I was a charity project. A way for them to feel good about themselves. And when I wasn't grateful enough, when I acted out or struggled, they threatened to send me back. You know what it's like to spend your childhood walking on eggshells, trying to be perfect enough to be worth keeping. He was shaking now, years of buried trauma spilling out. I aged out of their house at 18 with a trust fund and a handshake. Haven't had a real conversation with Patricia since. I built my company, made my fortune, and told myself I didn't need anyone. That I was better off alone. And then Lily walked into my office and asked her question, and everything I'd built to protect myself just crumbled. Elena moved closer, her anger softening into something else. You're not 8 years old anymore. I know that intellectually. But when Lily asked if we were pretending if the luck would run out, that's exactly what I always believed. That I'm not the kind of person people choose to keep. That eventually, everyone sees through to the broken parts and decides I'm not worth the effort. That's not true, isn't it? My mother said I can't buy love, and she's right. But Elena, I don't know how else to show it. I don't know how to be the kind of person you and Lily deserve. Someone who knows how to do family. How to be there without being terrified that I'm getting it wrong. Elena reached out and took his hand. Her palm was warm, calloused from hard work, and somehow exactly right. You think I know what I'm doing? She asked softly. Marcus, I'm winging it every single day. Lily asked me last week why some kids have daddies and she doesn't. You know what I told her? That families come in all shapes, and ours is just her and me. And then she asked if maybe sometimes families add people like when you add numbers in your spreadsheets. And I didn't know what to say because I was too scared to hope. Hope for what? For this. For you. For the possibility that maybe we could actually be what we've been pretending to be. She squeezed his hand. But I need to know it's real. I need to know that when things get hard, and they will get hard, you won't shut us out. That you won't treat love like it's a merger that failed. Marcus thought about his mother's words. About his years of carefully maintained distance. About the walls he'd built so high he'd almost suffocated behind them. And then he thought about Lily's laugh when he made stupid jokes about vegetables. About Elena's smile over morning coffee. About the way his penthouse had transformed from a showpiece into a home filled with finger paintings and scattered toys, and the kind of chaos that made his chest feel full instead of empty. I'm going to get it wrong sometimes, he said. I'm going to be emotionally stunted and bad at communication. I'm going to fall back into old patterns when I'm scared. I'm going to be exhausted and short-tempered. I'm going to have days where I'm convinced I'm failing at everything. I'm going to need help and hate asking for it. Elena's voice was steady. That's what being human is. That's what being a family is. The choosing kind? Marcus asked, echoing Lily's words. The choosing kind. Elena confirmed. The kind that stays even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Marcus pulled her closer, resting his forehead against hers. I choose you. Both of you. Not as an employee or a charity case or a project. As my family. If you'll have me. We'll have you, Elena whispered. Emotional dysfunction and all. They stood there in the kitchen, holding each other, and Marcus felt something shift in his chest. The walls he'd spent decades building didn't crumble. That would have been too easy, too complete. But they developed cracks. Places where light could get in. Places where love could take root. We should get Lily, Elena said finally. She needs to hear this too. She's going to demand a family meeting with charts, isn't she? Oh, definitely. You've created a monster with those spreadsheets. Marcus laughed, actually laughed, and realized he couldn't remember the last time he'd done that before they'd come into his life. Before they could move, the doorbell rang. Marcus frowned. I'm not expecting anyone. He opened the door to find a delivery man with an enormous box. Marcus Whitmore? Yes. Delivery from FAO Schwartz. The man hauled the box inside. Says here it's marked urgent. Someone paid a hefty fee for same-day delivery. Marcus signed for it, confused, and opened the box. Inside was a massive dollhouse, the kind that costs more than most people's monthly rent. It was a perfect miniature of his penthouse, complete with tiny furniture and 3 small dolls, a man with dark hair, a woman with brown hair, and a little girl. There was a card. Marcus opened it with shaking hands. For the choosing family. So Lily can always remember that this is real. That she's wanted. That we choose each other every day. Did you order this? Elena asked, looking at the dollhouse with wonder.
No.
Marcus checked the order form. It had been placed 4 days ago. Before the fight. Before the resignation letter. I ordered it the day after Lily asked if we were pretending. I wanted her to have something tangible. Proof that this was real. Elena's eyes filled with tears. You already knew. Before you shut down, before you got scared, you already knew you wanted us to stay. I've wanted you to stay since the moment Lily asked her question. I just didn't know how to say it. Didn't know if I was allowed to want something this much. The door to the penthouse opened, and Mrs. Park appeared with Lily. The little girl's face was tear-stained, her hair messy, Mr. Hoppy dangling from one hand. Lily. Elena rushed forward, but Lily's eyes were on Marcus. Are we leaving? She asked in a small voice. Did I mess up the negotiation? Marcus walked over and knelt down, no longer caring that his knees protested.
No, sweetheart.
No one's leaving. I messed up. I got scared, and I forgot that the choosing family means we talk to each other when things are hard. We don't run away. You got scared. Lily looked incredulous. But you're a grown-up. Grown-ups get scared too, especially when they love people very much and worry about losing them. Lily processed this. Then, with the devastating simplicity of childhood, asked, Do you love me? So much, Marcus said, his voice breaking. So much it terrifies me. That's okay, Lily said matter-of-factly. I love you too. It's a little scary, but the good kind of scary. Like roller coasters. Marcus pulled her into a hug, and Elena joined them, and Mrs. Park discreetly slipped out with a knowing smile. I got you something, Marcus said, pulling back to show Lily the dollhouse. Wanna see? Lily's eyes went wide, and as she exclaimed over every tiny detail, Marcus caught Elena's gaze over their daughter's head. Their daughter. The choosing kind. 6 months later, Marcus sat in the boardroom of Whitmore Industries, presenting quarterly results that had exceeded every projection. His team watched him with a mix of pride and bewilderment. Their notoriously demanding CEO had somehow become both more effective and less terrifying. Any questions? Marcus asked as he concluded his presentation. Just one, said Jennifer Hastings, the board member whose husband had apparently called his mother about this secret family. You're leaving at 5 p.m. sharp these days. No late nights. No weekend sessions. Yet our productivity is up 15%. What's your secret? Marcus smiled, a real smile, not the corporate mask he'd perfected over the years. I have dinner with my family. Turns out, maintaining work-life balance makes me a better CEO. After the meeting, his assistant caught up with him in the hallway. Don't forget, you have the interview with Forbes at 2. They want to ask about your transformation. Their words, not mine. Marcus nodded. The article had been Elena's idea. If we're doing this, really doing this, let's control the narrative. Tell our story before someone else tells it wrong. So they'd agreed to one interview, one article, get ahead of the speculation, and then move on with their lives. The Forbes journalist was a sharp-eyed woman named Rachel Chun who'd done her homework. She met him in his office with a recording device and an air of professional skepticism. Mr. Whitmore, let's address the elephant in the room. 6 months ago, you were known as the Ice King of Wall Street. Now you're leaving work early to have dinner with your housekeeper and her daughter. Critics say it's a publicity stunt. Others speculate about the nature of your relationship with Ms. Rodriguez. What's the truth? The truth, Marcus said carefully, is that I met someone who needed help. And in helping her, I discovered that I needed help too. Needed family. Needed to remember that there's more to life than the next acquisition or merger. So, this is a business arrangement? It started that way. Elena was working herself to death trying to provide for Lily. I had resources and space. It made logical sense.
He paused.
But logic doesn't account for how a 3-year-old can teach you more about courage in 5 minutes than you've learned in 33 years. Are you and Ms. Rodriguez romantically involved? We're building something, Marcus said simply. What we have is real, and it's ours. That's all the public needs to know. Rachel made a note. Your mother gave a statement to several outlets saying you're trying to buy a ready-made family because you can't face your own childhood trauma. How do you respond? Marcus felt the old anger rise, but tamped it down. He and Patricia had had one more conversation since that phone call, a meeting where he'd laid out clear boundaries and she'd oscillated between manipulation and grudging respect. They probably wouldn't ever have the relationship he'd once hoped for. But he'd made peace with that. My mother is entitled to her opinions. They don't change my reality or my choices. After the interview, Marcus headed home, and yes, the penthouse had become home, in a way no property ever had before. He found Elena in the kitchen, covered in flour, laughing as Lily attempted to knead bread dough. How was the interview? Elena asked, wiping her hands on her apron. Invasive. Necessary. Over. He loosened his tie. How was your day? Lily discovered that yeast makes dough rise, and now she thinks it's magic. We've been having philosophical discussions about the nature of transformation. It's science, Lily interjected, her small hands buried in dough. But also magic. Mr. Marcus, did you know bread is just flour that got transformed? Revolutionary concept, Marcus said seriously. Should we make a spreadsheet tracking the stages of bread transformation? Yes. Lily bounced on her toes. With pictures. As he helped Lily wash her hands and Elena prep the dough for its first rise, Marcus marveled at the domesticity of it all. A year ago, he would have found this scene unbearably mundane. Now it felt like everything. Later that evening, after dinner and bath time, and the elaborate bedtime routine that involved readings from 3 different books and negotiations about one more glass of water, Marcus found Elena on the balcony, looking out over the city. She's down, he said, joining her. Though she tried to convince me that going to bed later would give her more data points for her sleep chart. Elena laughed. She's becoming you. It's terrifying. She's becoming herself. That's what's supposed to happen. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. The city sparkled below them, millions of lives unfolding in the darkness. I enrolled, Elena said quietly, in the online teacher certification program. Classes start next month. Marcus felt a surge of pride. That's amazing. You'll be incredible. It's going to be hard. balancing the coursework with everything else. Good thing you're not doing it alone. He pulled her closer. We're a team, remember? The choosing kind, Elena said, leaning into him. Speaking of choosing, Marcus pulled back slightly. I've been thinking about making this more official. Elena's eyes widened. Marcus.
Wait.
Let me say this before I lose my nerve. He took a breath. I don't know how to be a husband. I barely know how to be a partner. But I'm learning. And I want to keep learning.
With you.
With Lily. I want the world to know that you're not my employee or my charity case or any of the other things people speculate. You're the person I choose. Every day. For the rest of my days. He pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a ring, nothing ostentatious, just a simple band with 3 intertwined stones. Sapphire, emerald, ruby. Blue for Lily, he explained. Green for you. Red for me. Because we're stronger together than we ever were apart. Elena's hands shook as she looked at the ring. I have nothing to offer you. No money, no connections, no. You offer me everything that matters. You taught me that being vulnerable isn't weakness. That asking for help isn't failure. That love isn't a transaction. It's a choice we make every single day. He took her hand. Elena Rodriguez, will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of you and Lily? You're already worthy, Elena whispered. You were always worthy. You just couldn't see it. Is that a yes? That's a yes. 1,000,000 times yes. As he slid the ring onto her finger, the balcony door burst open and Lily ran out, Mr. Hoppy trailing behind her. I heard talking and I thought maybe there was an emergency family meeting happening without me. She stopped, seeing them embrace.
Oh.
Is this the good kind of crying? Elena laughed through her tears. Yes, baby. The very good kind. Mr. Marcus asked Mommy to marry him, Marcus explained. Which means we're officially the choosing family. Lily shrieked with joy. Forever and ever? Forever and ever, Marcus confirmed, and Lily launched herself at them with such force they nearly toppled over. Later, much later, after Lily had finally fallen asleep clutching a hastily drawn chart showing the stages of becoming a family, Marcus and Elena sat together in the living room. The space that had once been a sterile showcase was now cluttered with Lily's artwork, family photos, and the comfortable mess of people actually living. Are you scared? Elena asked softly. Terrified, Marcus admitted. What if I mess this up? What if I'm not enough? You will mess up. We both will. That's part of being human. She squeezed his hand. But we'll mess up together. We'll figure it out together. And on the days when you're drowning, I'll pull you up. And on the days when I'm breaking, you'll hold the pieces. That's what family does, Marcus said, understanding it fully for the first time. That's what the choosing kind does. 3 months later, they stood in the penthouse living room with a small group of people they'd chosen to witness their marriage. No big wedding, no spectacle, just the people who mattered. Marcus's assistant was there, damp-eyed. Mrs. Park came with her husband, a few colleagues from Elena's online program, and Lily, in a flower girl dress, taking her responsibilities very seriously. The officiant asked Marcus to share his vows. He looked at Elena, at Lily standing between them, and found the words he'd been preparing. A year ago, a little girl asked me if I knew anyone who wanted a daughter. I didn't understand the question then. Didn't understand that she wasn't just asking about herself. She was asking about all of us. All the people wandering around wondering if we're wanted. If we're worth choosing. His voice cracked. Elena, you taught me that love isn't something you earn or buy. It's something you build, day by day, choice by choice. I choose you. I choose this family. I choose to be brave enough to believe I'm worthy of being chosen back. Elena's vows were simpler, but no less profound. Marcus, you told me once that you invested in potential. Thank you for seeing potential in us. Thank you for giving Lily a father who teaches her about spreadsheets and lets her paint on expensive paper. Thank you for giving me a partner who understands that strength isn't the absence of fear, it's moving forward despite it. I choose you, today and every day after. When they were pronounced married, Lily cheered loud enough to make the windows rattle. I have a dad, she announced to anyone who would listen. A real one. The choosing kind. At the small reception afterward, Marcus found himself cornered by his assistant, who had tears streaming down her face. I've worked for you for 8 years, she said. I never thought I'd see like this.
Happy.
Real. I never thought I'd be like this, Marcus admitted. Turns out, I just needed someone to ask the right question. What question was that? He looked across the room at Elena, who was laughing at something Mrs. Park said, and at Lily, who was showing anyone who would look at her flower girl dress. Whether I knew anyone who wanted a daughter, he said softly. The answer was yes. I just didn't know it yet. That night, after the guests had left and Lily had crashed hard from sugar and excitement, Marcus and Elena stood in what was now officially their bedroom, not his, but theirs. We did it, Elena said, still in her simple white dress. We're actually married. We are. Marcus pulled her close. Are you having second thoughts? Because I can still return the dress. She swatted him. Never. Though I do have a confession. Oh. When Lily asked you that question a year ago, I wanted to die of embarrassment. I spent the whole night convinced you'd fire me in the morning. But a part of me, a tiny, ridiculous part, wondered what it would be like if you said yes. If you were the answer to the question. And now I know, and it's better than I ever imagined. She kissed him softly. Thank you for being brave enough to choose us. Thank you for being patient enough to let me figure out how. In the morning, Marcus woke to find Lily wedged between him and Elena, Mr. Hoppy clutched to her chest. She must have had a bad dream and climbed in sometime during the night. He should have been annoyed. His younger self definitely would have been. But instead, he felt a peace so profound it made his chest ache. This was his family. The choosing kind. The kind that stuck together even when things were hard. Especially when things were hard. Lily stirred, opened her eyes, and smiled up at him. Good morning, Daddy. The word hit him like a lightning bolt. She'd been calling him Mr. Marcus, or just Marcus, for months. But Daddy was new. Daddy was everything. Good morning, sweetheart. He managed past the lump in his throat. Can we make pancakes? The fancy kind with the blueberries in them? Absolutely. Can we track how many blueberries we use? We can make a chart. This is the best family, Lily declared with the absolute certainty of a child who'd finally found where she belonged. The very best choosing family in the whole world. And Marcus, who'd spent 33 years believing he was unlovable, who'd built walls so high he'd almost suffocated behind them, who'd thought family was something that happened to other people. Marcus Whitmore looked at his wife and his daughter and realized something profound. Sometimes the person asking if anyone wants them is also the person who needs to be wanted. Sometimes the answer to an impossible question changes everything. And sometimes, just sometimes, the most feared billionaire in Manhattan discovers that the bravest thing he'll ever do is open his heart and let himself be chosen. Yes, he whispered, kissing Lily's forehead. The very best. The end.